All right, give me a spot. You know my motto, safety first.
They could be dangerous. I think we should call animal control.
Animal control?
To be safe.
Don't worry.
Just...
I got this. It's a new motto.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Addiction. It's a battle that we all struggle with at some point in our lives. When the challenges and questions of addiction are in our path, the answers and solutions are not easy to find. But in Fairfield County, Ohio, there is hope. There is help, and there is healing. Steve Rao leads us down the road to recovery.
Hello there, and welcome to another Road to Recovery program, the program that offers hope and help and wholeness and healing for those who are struggling with addiction. Or maybe you have a friend or a family member, a coworker, a relative, a classmate, somebody in your sphere of influence that is struggling with addiction. We're going to do our best on this program to provide people who will give you tools in your toolbox to be able to help those who have this struggle. My name is Steve Rao, and our guest today is the Executive Director of Prevention Works for a Drug-Free Fairfield County. Her name is Toni Ashton. Toni, welcome to Road to Recovery.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
It is wonderful to have you joining us. Often in this discussion about addiction, people say, well, I wish they wouldn't have started. That's really what you're about, isn't it?
Exactly. Prevention. For the Prevention Works Coalition, our mission statement is to prevent and reduce substance abuse in youth.
The money that is spent in prevention is pennies on the dollar compared to recovery, isn't it?
Correct. Correct.
And so it is money extremely well spent to try to avoid this road to recovery because a person has been able to avoid addiction. How would you encourage people to avoid that road to addiction?
Well, I think that when we talk about adults, that we want to look at our own use, whether it's alcohol or tobacco, the legal substances.
Sure.
So to look at their own use and to realize that they are role models for their children and just youth in our community. When we talk about youth, I think we need to educate our youth about the substances and what they can do and how using alcohol or drugs at a young age can affect them for their lifetime. That it is much more addictive the earlier that kids use.
Very good. So talk to me about what Prevention Works does right here in Lancaster and Fairfield County.
Well, the Prevention Works Coalition has been here in Fairfield County since 2003, and actually at that time it was under the wing of the Recovery Center. And they brought people together and key stakeholders in the community to talk about youth substance abuse. And we started meeting, and over time then, the Family, Adult, and Children First Council wrote a grant, and I was employed at that time by the council. And we wrote a grant to receive a federal grant to help fund the coalition. And we did receive that grant, so that was in 2005. And so we are mandated by the federal government to do certain things with our funding that we receive from them. So one is to prevent substance abuse in youth. So we do work specifically to target youth, but in doing that, we also educate parents and teachers and adults in the community. We also had to select 3 substances that we were going to work on. So we looked at our data here in Fairfield County and decided on underage drinking or alcohol, marijuana use, and prescription drug use. So those are the substances that we target as a coalition. Again, the federal government mandates us to do environmental strategies. So the coalition doesn't do direct service with youth.
Okay.
So we don't, as a coalition, go into schools and do classroom presentations.
Okay.
The Recovery Center does that. They have a prevention staff that goes into schools and talks to students, educates students about drugs and alcohol. So the coalition works more with our environment. So I can give you some examples of some things the coalition has done over time. When we first started the coalition, we noticed that at the Art Walk, at the Lancaster Festival, that many of the businesses that had art also provided champagne and champagne fountains. And so we noticed as we walked through the Art Walk that many of those champagne fountains were not supervised by adults and that youth were also enjoying the champagne.
Uh-oh.
And so the next year we decided, okay, how can we target this so that our youth aren't drinking champagne? And so we went to the businesses and talked with them, and they did not realize it. They were very open to suggestions. And so we just asked them to monitor, have an adult monitor the champagne fountains.
Sure.
And we made some table toppers for them to put on their tables about, alcohol is not a minor problem with
Right.
youth. And had great reception from them. And so that next year they followed through and had an adult there. And as the years have gone on, there are now very few businesses that provide champagne or wine during the Art Walk. So that that was an environmental strategy. So we
Correct.
actually changed the environment for the Art Walk for our youth.
A very wise move on your part. I think another thing that Prevention Works does is going to businesses and maybe with underage people and seeing if the business will sell them alcohol or tobacco.
That's true, we do. The coalition works with local law enforcement, so the Lancaster Police Department and the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, also the Baltimore Police Department, to do compliance checks. So they train youth to go out into convenience stores, drive-throughs, even bars, to purchase alcohol or tobacco. The youth use their own IDs, so there's no trying to fool anyone.
No fake ID.
No fake ID. In fact, they are very, law enforcement are very cautious about the youth they use. They don't want them to look older than they are, so, probably not facial hair on
Sure.
the male, or not a lot of makeup on the females. They want them to look their age.
Sure.
And so they have them videotaped, and they try to purchase. And so if they are sold, then that seller or server is given a summons to appear in court. If they do not sell, they're given a nice letter that said, "Good job,
Right.
Thanks for complying, thanks for checking IDs,
Yeah.
keeping our kids safe."
Again, addressing the environment, right? Trying to have a healthier, safer environment for young men and young ladies so that when they try to buy alcohol or tobacco and they're underage, that they won't be able to do that.
Correct. So removing that access for our youth.
Absolutely. Another wise decision from Prevention Works.
Yes.
You've also instituted a new drop-off box process to reduce the number of opiates that are on the street. Talk to us about that.
Correct. So we have been for a number of years now doing the national drop-off days. So we have partnered with Lancaster Police Department and Ohio University Lancaster campus to do the national drop-off days, where cars can come out to OUL and drop off drugs. And actually, for that, they can drop off any drug. And we also have like a battery drop off and a shredding truck there that they can bring materials to shred.
Sure.
So it seems sort of a natural movement then for the coalition to approach the police departments to see if they would have a permanent drop box placed in their lobby. So we met with all law enforcement in the county and tried to figure out where it would be best situated in Fairfield County. And so Pickerington Police Department and Lancaster Police Department volunteered to have the boxes in their lobbies. And so that has been a great asset for our communities. I just received a report from Lancaster Police Department that this last quarter they collected 83 pounds of pills. And
Wow.
again, we're looking for narcotics, and that poundage is just the pill, no packaging.
Right.
So that is, that's great. The quarter before, it was 117
Wow.
pounds. And the quarter before that, our first quarter, it was, I think, 36 pounds.
Yeah.
So I think that's been a great thing for our community.
No question about it, and there's no questions asked. You drop your pills off,
Right.
you exit. They're not videotaping you to try to turn you in or anything like that. You drop off the pills at Pickerington Police Department or Lancaster Police Department, and it gets them off the street and protects a lot of people. That
Correct.
kind of prevention, that works.
Right, and again, that's alleviating access, because we know from our youth that most of them are getting the prescription drugs out of their medicine cabinets, or maybe their grandparents' medicine cabinets.
Sure.
So getting those out of the home, I think, really help reduce the access for youth.
No question. If you were to give one or two things that are definite statements that prevention does work, what are one or two prevention measures that, if they were used on a more regular basis, would prevent the abuse of alcohol or use of tobacco or drugs?
Okay, so my first idea would be that parents need to talk to their kids about alcohol and drug abuse. That we know statistically that the parents that talk to their kids, those kids are the least likely to use. So, so not only parents, but we also want any adult that has a relationship with a youth to be able to open that conversation and talk about drugs and alcohol. Sometimes I think parents think that kids don't listen to them. And it's, again, statistically, kids tell us the one person that they listen to are their parents. So I think that's really important. One of the projects that Prevention Works does is called the Stand Up Project. And we ask high school youth to nominate who in their life is their anti-drug hero. And so they have a form to fill out. We ask them who in their life has helped you make a decision not to use drugs and alcohol. And so this will be our third year of doing the Stand Up Project. We have a total now of about 25 stand-ups, and what we do is a committee reviews the nomination. They select who they think is a great person to be a role model for our youth in our community. And we partner with the Mount Pleasant Photography Club to take their picture, and then we mount those pictures on life-size stand-up. And I take those with me in a lot of different places. Actually, they were here for the Health Fest. And they've been to city council meetings, they've been to the Lancaster Police Department, they've been to different schools and their lobbies. So that project, the goal of that project is to, of course, let people know about Prevention Works, to let people know that all kids don't use substances, because, again, I think a lot of people are misinformed.
Yeah.
Most kids don't use, the majority don't use drugs.
Correct.
So we want the public to know that, and then we also want the public to know that you can make a difference in a kid's life. And so one of our stand-up figures is actually from Fairfield Christian Academy this year. Aaron Bates is one of our stand-ups.
Wonderful.
And so he'll eventually be here in stand-up form.
Very
So-
good. Well, we are out of time. If folks would like to get a hold of you or Prevention Works, what's the best way to do that?
So the best way would be to call me, and my phone number is 740-681-5542.
Very good. Toni Ashton, Executive Director of Prevention Works, thanks for coming on the Road to Recovery show. Thanks for the leadership you provide. Thanks for the effort you put in to prevent young people, especially, from getting involved in the process of addiction so they don't have to travel down the road to recovery. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for Road to Recovery. You can contact the Recovery Center. They're at 201 South Columbus Street here in downtown Lancaster. you can give them a call, 740-687-4500, and they would love to hear from you today. Join us next time as we continue with another guest and maneuver down the road to recovery.
These waters were woven into the culture of Native American tribes. The descendants of the early Europeans built a business here based on agriculture. And today, this unique destination in the central Ohio countryside comes to life with stories and memories centuries old. The Fairfield County Historical Parks invites you to amazing Rock Mill. Above the falls of the Hocking River Gorge, here together, nature and man have created some truly American stories that you'll want to experience with the entire family. Visit us or learn more about Rock Mill and the largest wooden water wheel in the nation at historicalparks.org.